What's up guys? Today we'll be checking out Top Gun Maverick on 4K. This of course isn't a review on how good or bad the movie is. I'm just going to share some of my thoughts on the audio and the video quality. Now let's go over a few tech specs. The movie was shot in 6K using the Sony FX3 IMAX certified camera.
First thing we had to do was develop a motion picture camera that could fit in the tight cockpit of an F-18. So my DP and I, Claudio Miranda, worked closely with Sony to develop a new camera system called the Venice. We have 6 IMAX quality cameras inside the cockpit with the actors while they run the scenes.
So this movie was not shot with actual IMAX cameras. It's got a 4K DI. It's rated PG-13. Runtime is 130 minutes and the aspect ratio is 239:1 and 1.90 for the IMAX shots. So there are black letterbox bars and full screen. The audio is in Dolby Atmos. The first thing we're going to take a look at is the Dolby Atmos viewer. If you don't know what the Atmos viewer is or where to get it, I'll leave a link for the video that tells you all about it down below in the video's description. You can also find all the gear that I use for these reviews down there as well, such as the Sony X95K and the JVC NZ7. As you can see here, this is at the start of the movie when Tom is flying in the Dark Star plane. There's some good effects with the wind blowing by the cockpit that you'll hear moving through the side channels. It's a nice little effect that makes it feel like you're inside the plane, so you'll be surrounded in a bubble of sound. At about 36 minutes in during the first training session, there's a bunch of flybys with planes moving front to back and side to side and, in every direction. Now, if you couldn't tell, this is for the most part a static mix, so there aren't a bunch of objects dynamically moving through each speaker. It's got a few moments here and there that do, but I'd have to say about 98% of the movie is static. Aside from the aerial action, there isn't much else happening as far as aggressive surround. There is some nice lower channel ambiance, and the musical extension does make for a large cinematic presence. The bass response during the aerial scenes has got some strong output down to 30 Hz, so you'll really feel the planes rumble through your body as they take off and fly through the speakers. There's also a few explosions at the end that'll shake your house, so your subwoofers will definitely have something to do. That said, I do think the bass could have had a bit more punch with that One Republic song during the football scene.
It can't be.
If you're new to the channel and you're into new movies and audio and video gear and want to see more content like this, be sure to tap the subscribe button for new weekly videos. As for the video quality, keep in mind that the 4K Blu-ray doesn't come out till November 1st, so I am reviewing the digital stream and the Kaleidoscape versions. If you don't know what the Kaleidoscape is, you can find a link to the video that tells you all about it down below in the video's description. As mentioned earlier, this does include full IMAX shots for most of the aerial scenes. Now, if you're used to watching movies like The Dark Knight or Tenet, which does have scenes shot on real IMAX cameras as well as 35mm, you'll always be able to tell how much cleaner the IMAX footage is compared to the rest of the movie that was shot on 35mm. In this movie, whether it's an IMAX or non-IMAX shot, the clarity and resolution remain consistent throughout, which means that this movie is 4K crispy from start to finish. I've been debating whether or not it's crispier than Ambulance for the top spot this year for the best looking movie. Anyways, this movie is so detailed I can see the translucent texture in Tom Cruise's teeth. Now, when I compared the Kaleidoscape version to the digital stream, I saw a sizable increase in clarity due to the higher bitrate. There are these close-up shots of Jennifer Connelly where you can make out every tiny wrinkle and texture on her cheeks. And it remains that detailed even when she moves her head. On the digital stream, those fine details are a lot softer, and during any type of movement, you'll see that there's a bit of motion blur that softens the image. You'll see this a lot when things are in motion if you're looking for it, but if you're not, I'm sure you're going to be perfectly content. It might be harder to tell on a smaller display, but it is worth mentioning if you think a stream looks identical to the Kaleidoscape or 4K disc. As for the HDR, the movie's got a max CLL of 495 and a max fall of 492. It's not a crazy bright movie like Aquaman, nor is it dim like Free Guy. I'd have to say it falls somewhere in between. The color palette is very natural with a slightly warm tone, so you won't be blown away by any heavy saturated colors like in Aquaman or Ambulance. And unlike those movies, the specular highlights aren't of the eye-blinding variety. They've got some nice pop when things are blowing up or when the sun is beaming in the background. Just don't go in expecting it to push your TV's nit levels. That means brightness levels. As for shadow detail and black level, it looked flawless to my eyes on the Kaleidoscape. It's not a particularly dark movie, but I saw no loss of detail in the shadows or anything being crushed. The blacks were a touch softer on the digital stream with slightly less contrast, though for a stream I think it was pretty impressive. Overall, this is a reference quality transfer on both the Kaleidoscape and on digital, whether it's iTunes or Vudu. And for those that want to know, the Kaleidoscape version is 68.2 gigs, so that should give you an idea of what to expect once it hits on physical media. It should also give you an idea of how it might look on disc as opposed to the lower quality streams. And the audio would be identical since the Kaleidoscape and the disc are both lossless. That said, video quality wise, I'd have to give the Kaleidoscape version a 9.9. It's reference quality. There's some CGI that looks a little off, but other than that, this is an impeccable transfer. It's one of the cleanest, sharpest looking movies I've seen this year without looking overly digital while still retaining a very filmic cinematic feel. The IMAX shots are intact and the HDR is done tastefully. I'm expecting the 4K disc to be just as impressive. For the digital stream, I'm gonna go 9.5. It's a little softer than the Kaleidoscape version, but everything else applies. For audio, I'm gonna go 9.1. If I was to compare it to Midway, which also has a ton of aerial scenes, I think there's better separation and distinction amongst all the effects, such as the planes when they move from speaker to speaker. They still sound good in this movie, I just felt it wasn't as precise. High channels do get plenty of usage, and the subwoofer hits hard, and dialogue is always easy to hear. For the digital stream, I'm gonna go 8.8 as it is lower in volume and it is dynamically challenged. All in all, this is a must-own if you want to show off your 4K display or have a giant screen at home. It's a must-have on Kaleidoscape and worth it on digital if you don't want to wait for the 4K disc. So what are your thoughts on Top Gun Maverick on 4K? Have you seen it, and do you think it's the best looking movie this year? Leave a comment down below and let me know. Now, if you do want to grab this movie, I'll leave some links for it down below in the video's description. As always, guys, thanks for watching. If you want, you can follow us on social media, and if you want to support the channel and get exclusive content or great discounts on audio and video gear, then stop by our Patreon page. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you again in the next video.